Hi guys, welcome back to the channel Machining with Joe. So we're carrying on with the quick change tool post again this week. In the previous video you might have seen we've got to this point here. We've got the quick change tool post block all pretty much finished. We've got the piston and the cam lobe all done. So we've got our locking mechanism. What I want to get done this week, I want to get a tool holder made. So, some more metal. Got this nice big block of, I think it was 40 by 50 millimeter EN3 mild steel. And my plan is today, get that cut down and get probably one tool holder made so I can trial this on the tool post and see how it all fits together. So it should be a really nice video to sort of get towards, don't really want to say it, but get towards the end of this quick change tool post build series. So gonna head over to the mill, start cleaning up an offcut and go from there really. As always guys, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. So over on the mill then, I've got my piece of EN3 blocked up in the vise, and currently this is reading 81 millimeters end to end, and I need to get that down to 79 mil. So I'm going to take that down to final dimensions now, and it will also be a good point so I can clean up the edges, get both of those with a nice finish. So I'm going to take 1 mil off each side of these, and then that will be final dimensions width wise. So let's get into this. Right, after a little bit of faffing around with some blunt end mills I bought in a job lot on eBay, I finally managed to get this thing taken down to final dimensions and both the ends cleaned up pretty nice. Next thing we need to do now then is I want to get the dovetail cut in this, and to do that I need to quite accurately find the centre point of this piece of material end to end. It just so happens I've actually bought a new bit of tooling to help me do this. So instead of using an edge finder like I have done in previous, is that going to focus? I've bought myself a hammer gauge. So it's going to be the first time using this thing. I've looked at reviews and videos online of how you actually use these, and they look amazing. So let's give it a go. See how quick and easy this is going to make my life. Was it worth the purchase? So I'm just going to touch off on my work here now until we start to see the gauge move. Right, we've got a bit of movement. Now the goal here is to get the red needle to line up with the 0 and the black line to also line up with 0. So going round, that's 1 millimeter. Coming round about there. So with that reference on there, I'm going to zero out my DRO. Moving all the way now over to the other side of the work. I'm going to come down and do exactly the same thing. So right, we've touched off, go round to 0, there we are. So up here my DRO, we're going to use the half function, x-axis, and now I know exactly where my centre mark is. So yeah, that's the hammer gauge. Made finding the centre line and the edge of work really easy there, so super glad I bought this. Great addition to the tooling arsenal that I'm starting to get now. So we've got our centre line, we know what we're doing, we're going down 9 millimeters. Let's get cutting. So just coming up to the last millimetre now of stock that I've got to take off. And so far this face mill is actually really handy to cut this slot out. So I've maxed out at about a 0.4mm depth of cut. So it has taken a fair few passes, but the overall finish of this looks really good. And it's handy because it pretty much takes out all the stock I need almost to final diameter, so that's pretty good. What are we at now? 8.23. 2 more passes and we should be done then. With the majority of the stock now removed, I can try to look at the dimensions here and see how much more I'm going to have to take off. So to begin with then, let's look at the depth that this dovetail is going to be. Currently we're at 9.9mm, and that's pretty much the depth that I wanted to aim for. So depth wise, we haven't got to remove any more from this material. Now as for the width, so the narrowest point on the dovetail that I'm cutting needs to be 43.3mm, and I'm currently at 42.7, so that's a 0.6mm difference, which means I'm going to have to half that and take 0.3mm off this side, 0.3mm off this side. I'm going to quickly do that now with an end mill. Right then, I've now finished machining this part, so up here is the narrowest part of our dovetail. Next thing I need to do now is start cutting a 60-degree dovetail into here and into here. So to set this up, I've used the old paper trick, sort of zeroed it out on this surface here, zeroed it out on this surface here, and now taking a measurement from my old tool post, I need to move into the work 4.1mm that way and then 4.1mm this way. So I'm going to keep my dovetail like I did with the tool post at this position now and not move the Z anymore. All I'm going to be doing is moving in the X direction that way, taking gradual passes as I go. So let's start forming these dovetails. Well, hey, would you look at that? Ugh. Locking mechanism's all working, and we've got the tool holder on here. Now, I feel like we're all friends on this channel now. I've got a slight confession to make. That, my friends, is a scrap part. Well, for this project it's not a scrap part. It's still perfectly serviceable, but yeah, I messed up a little bit. See if we can get a better shot of that. There we go. So basically what happened, I was doing the last few passes just to clean it up, just to get a nice slide fit, and I had one of those moments where my hands and my brain done two completely different things. Got a little bit of chatter, panicked, turned the wrong handle, and that's what we've got. It's not pretty, but for this video and for this holder, I'm going to run with that. I think that's going to be okay still. So next thing I need to do now is I need to mill out a 20mm slot for my tool holders to go in. The whole reason that I'm building this tool post is because my lathe is using a lot bigger tooling now, so I want to accommodate for that with a 20mm hole so I can take all my big tools. So that's what we've got to do now. We've got to mill out 20mm slot and then start to think about where the holes are going to be. So, because obviously we need 4 grub screw holes. to hold the tool itself, and we also need a way of keeping the height on this thing, so I'm going to probably need a hole at the back here. Back over on the mill then, and I'm using my hammer gauge once again just to find the centre point for this work. So where before we were doing it in the x-axis, now we're checking it out in the y-axis. Touched off there. Back it off a little bit. Right, there's that one. And there we are, bang on. And just like that, got our centre point. So with our centre point all marked out now, I'm going to stick in a 20mm carbide end mill and just start hocking into this bit of material. So this is our last pass now, and this should take us to pretty much the final depth what we need to be at. I might just go back over this, just do some final finishing passes to get the surface finish a bit better, but this final pass should be the one that takes the last of the majority stock out. I've actually managed to up this to about a 1.2mm depth of cut with this big end mill, and seems to be coping okay. Just get a slight bit of judder towards the final end if I go too quick. But it's not been too bad this, no dramas. That's what we like, no dramas. Not like doing those dovetails, that was full of dramas. So, our 20mm tool here. That pretty much fits in there. Like I say, I'm going to go back now and do some final finishing passes. But generally, that's not a bad finish in there. Right, doing a 0.2mm depth of cut. Just to give this a nice final finish in there. Excellent. Let's head over to the bench and see how all this looks now. So there we have our quick change tool holder. That's all pretty much finished now, other than a few holes drilled and tapped. So seems to slide on there quite nice, lock in place nice, and with a 20mm shank tool that goes in there as well, pretty nice. So like I said, all I've got left to do now really is drill a couple of holes and tap them to take some sort of screw, and we also need to do a hole back here for the adjustment screw. I think we've covered quite a lot in this video, so I'm going to crack on and do them off camera, ready for next week's video. And when we come back next week, all that we really need to do now is drill and tap a hole in here, make some kind of handle mechanism. For now I'm going to stick with this as a way of bolting this down, and then that's ready to test out. So hopefully by the end of next week's video we're going to produce our first chips with this quick change tool post and see what it's like in terms of rigidity and how much chatter, hopefully none, but if it does, how much chatter this thing produces. So hope you've enjoyed today's video guys. a little bit different than normal actually, because I've actually showed you a mistake, and it's, to be honest, it's probably one of my first mistakes I've made on the mill, where it's resulted in, well, it could have resulted in a scrap part if this was for a customer or something like that. So it's been really interesting to share with you guys my up, and hopefully you've enjoyed it, seen me make this from scratch, and yeah, stay tuned for next week when we'll be sort of wrapping this up. Have a good week guys, happy machining, see you next time.